Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to M4J-Hatfield Racing here on F1 2021. This week has to be what I think is the longest episode of the series so far, and arguably the most chaotic too. A lot happens in this, so buckle up and get ready. Now I will point out, this is my first video back after a week's break. Me and the missus went down to the New Forest for a week, so if I'm a little bit here and there, I'm already sensing I'm here and there already, forgive me. It's my first time sat in front of the microphone for I think almost 2 weeks as well, so you'll have to bear with me on that one too. We are then in P2. You saw P1 there flash by at a moment's notice, and this, I believe, according to my notes here, is the best qualifying pace lap of P2. Now we're in COTA, should have mentioned that at the start, Circuit of the Americas here in Texas for the US Grand Prix. And I don't like this track very much, as you will see. These S's here are absolute killers. Now, I've mentioned this before. I mentioned this in the Singapore video, and I think I mentioned it last week as well in the Japanese Grand Prix video. I'm basically relearning how to drive an F1 car throughout the course of this series. Everything I did last year that worked no longer works. So I'm having to relearn things like gear shifting and where the braking points are and things like that. Now the braking points you'd think I'd have down to a T, considering a lot of these tracks I wrote the track guides for racing games. But when you're analysing a video frame by frame to see the braking point, it's very easy to pick out the crane on the left hand side or the flag panel or whatever it might be. Whereas when you're actually trying to do it whilst travelling at 180 miles an hour around a track that you despise, it's a lot more challenging. And you can see I'm missing a lot of the braking points here on the track. I'm waiting for the line to turn red, by which point it's normally too late. And this corner here, which in real life is a lot of fun to watch, but on the game, it's an absolute freaking nightmare. At this point, I just gave up on that little bit there and decided to go straight on. By the time the race comes to pass, I have pretty much perfected that corner. I wouldn't say nailed it exactly, but perfected it in the old M4J style, you know? Which isn't too bad, I suppose. So that's the qualifying pace out of the way. I actually did quite well. Obviously, I stayed well away from the track for most of it, but for the most part, I did all right. The S's that I believe are inspired by the S's at Suzuka, again, sometimes you just forget that you can lift and coast in an F1 car, despite the AI constantly overtaking you. And I said this last week as well for Japanese Grand Prix. The AI are very quick around sections of the track and very slow in others. And you see there, I actually did a pretty good job of getting around those S's. I think I'm in the wrong gear for most of it, but we'll ignore that. And then this final part here, you're actually supposed to be going flat out around this left-hander. But if you get your entry wrong, like I did, you end up not able to do that, which is exactly what happened to me. This hairpin, believe it or not, was the part of the track I found the easiest, and I used to find hairpins quite tricky. This time around, not too bad, relatively simple. The corner at the end of this DRS straight as well is supposed to be quite challenging, but I'm pretty good at straightforward, reach the end of a straight, there's your corner, hit it. And again, not a bad line through there. The ones I don't like are continuous corners, so the S's for example, left, right, left, right, left, right. Especially when they're all different angles, different entry speeds, different exit speeds, if there's an elevation change as well, like at Suzuka where it's all uphill, it can be an absolute freaking nightmare, as I've said. Absolute freaking nightmare. This part here, as you can see, I've actually got it pretty much nailed on at this stage. This is like attempt number 3, I think, and the qualifying was like attempt number 2 or 3 as well. So you can see I'm constantly testing the water, and it turns out sometimes you just have to lift and coast, and it helps you go faster, which isn't so bad. So yeah, my P2 wasn't that bad. It was a lot better than Suzuka, certainly a lot better than Singapore, and yeah, just can't complain, to be honest. Put in some decent laps. 11th fastest, which isn't that bad, all things considered. 1.4 off Hamilton in first, but still the best performer on the team, which is important to me at least. Although it would be nice if Dan Ticktum did start pulling his weight, but he's a rookie, what do you expect? As for everything else then, P3 was pretty straightforward. Had a couple of failures, but mostly ticked everything off that I was missing. And that's I think I've got my practice strategy down to a T now. Most of these tracks I know off by heart. So it's just a case of getting the most performance out of practice, and jobs are good, you know?
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. Your R&D team has been working non-stop this season. Is this to catch up or stay ahead? The regulation changes for next season have been announced. How is your team going to cope with the transition? Things are really heating up between you and your rival, aren't they? You really went all out in practice today. Are you testing new components? Appreciate your time.
Obviously, we all know there, Claire's appreciate your time is code for thank you for putting up with my stupid questions. Some of them are really stupid. There's particularly, you'd think by now they'd have got it sussed, where if you're doing a practice session, it's probably not wise for Claire to start the interview with, good race today, let's have your thoughts on it. Particularly if, like in Singapore, I crashed out more often than I completed a lap. But, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Here we are then for quali, and here we are in Q1. Now again, like I said in practice, at this point I was fairly comfortable with most of the racing line. A lot of what you see here is just me having steering drift. I still haven't quite figured out the wheel. It's the first time I've had a wheel with a proper sitting position where I'm not like hunched over my desk. So I was quite used to having sort of my arms and legs locked in place in the tight confines. Whereas now I've got a lot more room. Suddenly everything's got a lot more movement to it. So my arms, for example, unsteering. Steering's not the hard bit. Unsteering is the hard bit for me. Because I'm used to driving a car as well, where you can kind of not let go of the wheel completely, but you can loosen your grip slightly and the wheel sort of self-corrects itself. That doesn't happen with my wheel. So I'm moving it behind me. You might be able to hear it. It doesn't do that. It stays wherever you leave it, basically. So I'm doing my usual thing of just letting go of the wheel and the car remains turning. And I'm like, oh, that's not right. And having to like quickly move the wheel to actually unsteer the car. And you'll notice that if I oversteer on certain corners, like I start heading left coming out of the hairpin before the DRS straight, that's why. Because I just haven't unsteered the car properly. Which sounds really stupid, I know, I'm working on it. It's a mental thing. You know, it's a muscle memory thing, I should say, rather than a mental thing. Same there as well. Started heading left when I should have been going straight. Not the best so far in Q1. I finished 10th, which is fine. You know, that gets me through to Q2. Certainly not complaining. But you saw there, I think I was second or third. And that was literally because I was the third car out on track. Q2 then, slightly better. Slightly better. Starting to get the hang of things a little bit more. And again, to be honest, a lot of my laps were just being anxious about the S's. Nailed that hairpin. I was very happy with that. Got a nice tight line here through the right-hander. Over the curbs here. Now, you can't be too curby around the S's here because you will hit the sausage curb. And I don't know if Tom's left this in or not. I can't remember if it was in the race or if it was in quali. Might have even been in practice. But I hit one of the sausage curbs and just launched myself into orbit. So you really do have to be careful. And in fact, Abby Eaton broke her back at COTA going over one of the sausage curbs. So you really do have to be careful, real life and in game. But so far so good. I'm a second down on my best time so far, which I'm very, very... Is it a second down or a second up? I'm a second better than my best time so far, which I'm very, very happy with. This is my second lap as well. So I always do the first lap kind of as an eye-in kind of lap, see where the track is, see how the car's shaping up. And then the second lap is the one where I try and beat the previous time. 9 times out of 10, if I beat the previous time, I tend to put myself pretty high up in the standings. Particularly when I beat it by such a large margin, which I'm currently doing. This, by the way, that was beautiful. That's exactly how you combat that corner. Very, very, very happy with how I did there. Last corner here, that was pretty tidy as well, actually. Again, a little bit of oversteer, but not in the conventional sense. Fastest third sector there, and put myself in a very, very good position for Q3. Finished Q2 in second place behind only Hamilton and Bottas. So it's the Mercedes, then me. In fact, I was almost a 10th faster than Max, which I was also very happy with. Now, Q3 was a race against time. Not just because you've got to try and set a good time before the session ends, but because, as you can see, it's getting a bit cloudy up there. And it looked like rain was incoming. So, really, I just wanted to put my lap in very, very early and then just sit back and watch everyone else try to beat it. So, again, this is my second lap. First lap went reasonably well, I'd like to say. Second lap, always trying to beat the time, and you can see I'm fluctuating between being ahead of the delta and being behind the delta. Obviously you want to be in the green, which is what I'm aiming for, and so far so good. The S's are always manic, especially when you're trying to focus on your delta, because you will have, there's the oversteer again, you will have that moment where it suddenly flicks into the red and you might panic and push yourself a little too hard, and that's where you cause trouble for yourself. The best thing to do is to not panic on that section and try and make up the time elsewhere. So, you saw, as it turned out, the S's weren't too bad for me. I came out ahead. But the straight down towards the hairpin into the DRS zone, I would have used that to try and make up the time. Or, you know, maybe around this section, try and be a little bit finer on the apexes. Which sounds weird, considering I'm not normally that precise. But if you've watched this series before, and if you've watched me last year as well play F1, I can sometimes turn it on when needed, even if it's only for a 2 or 3 corner run, which is why I tend to leave it a little bit later on in my lap to start doing the time making. But again, not bad. Not bad at all there in Q3, and I qualified in third place, which I'm very, very happy with. Very, very happy with, in fact. I am insanely happy with my qualifying, especially as, like I said before, I do not like COTA. It is not my favourite track under any circumstances.
Great work out there today. Let's have your thoughts. Who would you say is your biggest rival at the moment? After all the teams have updated their cars for next season's regulation changes, where do you think you'll come out? Appreciate your time.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Räikkönen delighted the world by winning for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what, I wonder, is in store for us today? We're racing today then in Travis County, Texas, where 20 corners and speeds of up to 200 miles an hour await us on this magnificent racetrack. It's 60% full throttle with plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into turn 1 and at the end of the long back straight into turn 12. What a race we have in store today. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, let's talk about Sergio Perez. That was a great win in the last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have the engineer, Bottas, Sergio Perez and Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly, Tsunoda, Vettel, Lance Stroll and Giovinazzi, Ocon, Raikkonen, George Russell and Mick Schumacher, Fernando Alonso, Latifi, Tigtum and Nikita Mazepin. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So here we go then. It's me, Hamilton and Verstappen in the front 3. And as it happens, following Verstappen's lead in fact, I get a lightning quick start. Get the jump on Hamilton immediately. Was not expecting to see Verstappen there though. You see I hesitate as soon as I see him. Then Hamilton comes back on me again, which I've used the word flustered many times before in this series and I'll use it again. Basically I made up really good ground in the run up to turn 1 and then lost it all in turn 1. And not only that, had a little wheel bang there with the Ferrari of Sainz. and started to maybe slide down a little bit. However, thanks to the AI being a little bit of a wuss at the level I've got it set at, Sainz doesn't really push much more than he needs to, and I was able to hold him off just a little bit longer into this straight here. Now I think this is the part this is probably one of my favourite moments of the entire season so far. Look at Bottas, look at Sainz. They are bullying me, people. They are bullying me. Look, one goes one side, one goes the other. I'm sandwiched in between. Somehow managed to keep ahead of Sainz, but lose third place to Bottas, finish in 4th place here. Sainz then gets done by Perez. Might have been something to do with me. I probably pushed him a little wide around the corner. To be fair, I did go between them again, so it was my corner, I feel. Bottas was on the inside, so maybe he had the advantage over me, but it certainly wasn't Sainz's corner. So if he lost a place because of that, then that's entirely on him. Nothing to do with me. Perez then, getting very brave, coming up to the last corner. And he does in fact send it on me there, which I wasn't too happy about. But again, I went a little bit wide. Lap 1 is always my worst lap in the race. I do find it a little bit tricky. And there I was trying to follow... who was I behind? I think I was behind Sainz at that point. I was behind Perez, sorry. Sainz is now in front of me, and here comes Leclerc. I was trying to follow the Red Bull around that section, same speed and everything. And you can see the AI is on rails there. Whereas we humans, we mere mortals, we struggle with that corner. Every single time. That was a really nice send on Sainz, who did turn into me. He wasn't expecting me to be there, in fairness. I was very, very happy with that maneuver, though. Let me just quickly check the notes to see where we are, because again, this is mental. Sainz overtakes me with DRS here as we start lap 3. Get to turn 1. He's got the inside line. Do I do the old switcheroo? No, I do not, because he got good traction away from me there. And we have now dropped to 6th place, which I can't be too upset with, you know. 4 laps. Oh, yeah. This happened. Yeah. Okay, now I can be disappointed. This was just poor driving from me. Basically got sent right to the back. Put my foot down too early. I saw Sainz was there. I sensed an opportunity. There was not an opportunity. Spoiler alert. And the only driver behind me now is my teammate Dan Ticktum. Not my finest moment, that. And in the past, I probably would have used flashback or something. But I decided to stick with it. Accept my punishment, because it was entirely my fault. No one else's fault. Entirely my fault. And I think the game recognised that and somewhat admired that, because Leclerc, you saw there, had a bit of an oops on turn 1. And the safety car came out. Now, this safety car came out at probably the best time of the race for me. I was able to come in and pit, which is about where I wanted to pit anyway. We're almost a third, well, in fact, we're over the third of the way through the race. So this was a really good opportunity for me to come in and pit. Entered the pits in 21st, and you're about to watch something incredible happen. Look at all the cars that I've overtaken in the pit lane. Bear in mind, I came in 21st place. My pit crew here do one of the best pit stops that I've ever seen them do. 3.0. And we come out in 14th place. We managed to overtake 7 cars in the pit stop. Now, this sounds incredible until you realise that most teams double stacked. And that's what went wrong. For them. Not for me, but for them. Oh, thank you, Tom. Look at that big thumbs up. Because Ticktum came in behind me as well, and he got held up by me. And it was only when I watched it back that I realised that's what ended up happening.
They're on fresh mediums. Sainz is behind you. Less than a second separate you. They're on fresh mediums. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. 8 laps to go.
Thank you, Jeff. Sorry, everyone. I was doing that annoying thing again where I talk over Jeff. So the safety car is still out. The double stack for every team there really worked in my favour, because half the grid basically had to wait for their teammate to clear the box before they could come in. So we made up the 7 places. Still can't overtake, obviously, because we're under the safety car. But the safety car is coming in at this point, and I had my missus in the room next to me, and I was right up alongside Tsunoda, and I kept saying, you watch, I'm going to do a Verstappen, I'm going to get right alongside him, and then as soon as the green light goes, I'm just going to get him. Unfortunately, I didn't know where the start-finish line was, or at least where the safety car line was, and then I went wide on the last corner anyway because I couldn't go up the inside. I should have gone around the outside. That would have been the smarter thing to do. So not only did I not get Tsunoda, but I lost him for a brief moment. Had to fight to get him back. Went wide on the corner here. Got overtaken again by Sainz. That happens a lot. And yeah, just very, very briefly lost my composure again. I was a bit angry with myself for that. However, I make up for it here. That was an absolute send it. Again, Sainz turned into me because he just wasn't expecting me to be there. And I managed to make up the place again, which I was really happy about. So now we're up in 14th again. We've got, quick maths, 6 laps to go, I believe. That wasn't my finest moment, crashing into the back of Giovinazzi, but I needed to borrow his brakes in order to get past Tsunoda, so I'm pretty grateful for that. This was a really nice move. It took me a couple of attempts, I'll admit. I flashed back once or twice. But that was a really nice move on Giovinazzi. Just got it stopped before I hit Schumacher. Tried to send it up on Schumacher at one point. I think I flashed back here a little bit as well, maybe, or I do a little bit later for an overtake. But yeah, just not angry as such, but motivating myself based on what's happened in the race so far. I still had the spin in my mind, so I was a little bit cautious coming out of corners. But, oh yeah, that's not good either. I mean, what do you do there when they just slow down in front of you like that? This is not a good place for overtaking. The S is at COTA, for sure. The straights are, and the long right-hander definitely is, but not the S's, Mark. I don't know what I was thinking. Finally got Schumacher taken care of here. Just about got the car stopped. He tries to send it up the inside there, which again he's allowed to do. I went a little bit wide here as well, fending him off. But the main thing is we keep him behind. And not only do we keep him behind, but we actually allowed Giovinazzi a little sniff as well, which I think Schumacher does shut down. Up to 11th now with 5 laps to go. Coming around the last corner. There you go, 5 laps of fuel, 5 laps of the race. So that 4 laps of the race. Hang on, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, 4 laps of the race. Sometimes I forget how to count. It happens. This was a pretty decent turn 1, believe it or not. Got Lando right in front of me. I like having clean air going through the S's here. I like kind of concentrating on my own things. If I'm watching the AI, I'm watching them get away from me, and I don't like it. I think I actually clipped the sausage curve there as well, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but what can you do? Getting around that left-hander there quite nicely, approaching this. You see I turned in early because I wasn't expecting to be that tidy up to there. That happens as well sometimes. Again, it's muscle memory. You count the seconds in your head between wheel turns, and then sometimes you'll have a lap where you're just slightly off the time, but your arms don't realise that, and you turn in and realise you shouldn't have done that. I actually made up, I think, 7/10 on Lando through the S's, which I was really, really happy with as well. I think I had some wear on the MGUK or the MGUH, can't remember which one, but they were telling me to use my battery a lot more. So at this point I start looking at using the battery just a little bit more, just to try and make up some ground. And again, it's kind of working. I'm almost within DRS range of Lando. We're coming up to my favourite bit of the track, actually, despite my complaints. There was another spin, but flashback was used this time because I made up so much ground. I was not about to lose it all because of a stupid mistake coming out of that corner again. That's one of the hardest corners on track, actually, because you've got 2 relatively simple sections and then that bit in between. Now, I was about to make the move on Lando, but he decided to make the move on Stroll, which kind of opened the door for me as well, believe it or not. And as Tom says here, this is my fastest lap of the race, which, when you've got 3 cars in front of you like that, and you make a really good start to the lap by perfectly executing turn 1, you are going to put in a pretty decent lap time. You see I'm still behind Lando. Do I have DRS here? I don't think I do. Not on this part, but I make up the ground. Lando actually gets past Russell. Stroll tries to put it up the left-hand side there, but I quickly shut the door on him. Managed to get the car stopped still as well, which I'm very happy about. Coming around the last corner again. Final lap of the race. I don't know if Tom actually shows the full final lap. I think he does. But yeah, sending it up the inside of Russell. Again, that's a really tidy turn 1. It seems to be when normally I go around the outside on corners like that. But it seems to be sending it up the inside there actually made me get a good racing line. Which sounds weird, but it worked. That was not tidy for me. You see Russell nearly got back into it there. And in fact, Russell tries to get back in. He hits my rear wheel and spins out into the wall. So sorry, George. Did not mean to take you out of the race like that. The notes here says, you overtake Russell at the start of the lap, but he tries to fight back. Could I have done better there? Most definitely. Most definitely. But, you know, I was fighting at this point. I was fighting for a point. Not just for a point, but I was fighting for 9th place, which is 2 points. Stroll and Tsunoda taking it in turns to have a go there. Tsunoda tried it, failed. I think Stroll was slipstreaming me, so we both got past Yuki. And, yeah, Max crosses the line in 1st place, which did not happen yesterday. Ha. Good job, Ferrari, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, and Hamilton in 3rd, which I also was quite surprised about. But, yeah, coming around the last corner, not the tidiest there. Almost opened the door again for Stroll, but there you go, 9th place. Considering what happened, I was really happy with 9th place. I say that a lot. I was absolutely elated with 9th place. To come from basically dead last to finish in points, you can't say no to that, can you?
A truly magnificent drive and a great performance from the entire team to secure the win here in Austin. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work and they should be proud of the victory they secured here. Max Verstappen now leads the Drivers' Championship. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
Difficult call, but I'd like to say Esteban Ocon. He's just so gifted at getting the most out of his tyres, and he showed that today.
Let's move on to the constructors. Red Bull pull further ahead in the standings. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
One day it will be me on that podium. One day. For now though, I nearly had a shot at it, but finished 9th. As I said, I'm very happy with that, regardless of what the comment section might say.
Great work out there today. Let's have your thoughts. You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled. Which department has been hit the hardest by next year's regulation changes? Well, thanks anyway.
Now you'll see I upset Claire there a little bit by refusing to answer the question about the regulation changes. The honest answer would have been, I don't know. And if there was one that gave me that option, I would have selected it, believe me. Here's a good look at that start again. I think Lewis just had the faster car as well coming up. He actually locked up going into turn 1. And I actually hit Bottas there, which I didn't recognise either. Didn't realise at the time. Oh my god, it's so messy. So messy through the S's. I did alright through the next bit, but the first bit, not so good. But yeah, I don't know about the regulation changes yet, to be honest. I need to actually have a go and look at them. I could have sworn last year there was a bit where Carl would come in and tell you what the regulation changes actually were. I've not had that yet. Maybe I'll have that in Mexico. I don't know. There's me getting bullied again by... Oh, Bottas went through the bollard. Yeah, I forgot about that as well. But yeah, I mean, I could watch this highlights again and talk you through the race again, but overall, I am elated with the recovery drive that I made. I decided to stick with the spin. I could have flashed back, but I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to see what I could actually do when up against it. The safety car came at a very good time for me, I will admit that. But I still had to, you know, put the performance in on track. And moments like this, beating Giovinazzi there and just about avoiding Schumacher, that's what defines a good racer for me, is someone who can put it in when it matters most. They might not be the most consistent, they might not be the fastest, they might not be the best at braking points, but someone who can just at any moment put in a really good overtake or a really good maneuver and gain a place because of it. You know, I was fighting Mick there as well and so almost made it, but just narrowly missed out. And it's the fighting at the end, like the desperation to score a point. I had Tsunoda and Stroll trying to put the moves on me, and to actually be able to keep my nose in front in both situations was incredibly close and incredibly nerve-wracking, but boy was I happy. But yeah, that will do it for this episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course you enjoyed the series so far. Let me know down below how to improve the team, the car, and all that good stuff. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, have a good rest of your week, everyone, and I'll see you soon.